guys, it's Marianne from Thrive Admin Services. Today's video is a little bit different. I'm going to have a chat with you first up, and we're going to talk a little bit about SharePoint with Microsoft 365. It's the kind of thing that people sometimes panic a little bit about, think it's very techy and difficult and complicated, and I want to dispel some of those myths, give you a little bit of a really practical, common sense, foundational understanding of what SharePoint is and how it fits into the Microsoft 365 family. And then I will do some screen sharing and show you how I use SharePoint, SharePoint connected to some of the other apps and tools within Microsoft 365. So let's have a chat. Okay, so let's talk about SharePoint in some really simple ways for you. The most practical way to do that is to give you an analogy of something that you've probably worked with before, and then you can transfer the knowledge, okay? For me, I'm going to do it through the medium of stationery because I love stationery. So we're going to use my toaster rack filing system that sits on my desktop as my example of how I use SharePoint. This toaster rack sits on my desk. The toaster rack itself holds 10 files. Each file that I have on my toaster rack is a client. Within each file, I keep all of the content, paperwork, scribble notes, bits and pieces that I need in order to run the project. SharePoint and how I use SharePoint is a direct replica of this, but virtually. SharePoint itself is the toaster rack. It is the space on the web in my Microsoft 365 subscription that holds the space for all of the content. Okay, so it is just a big empty container, or it's a very large toaster rack that I can put all of my client work in. On top of the platform, or in the platform, we talk about it like a container. It's a massive container, and then I create files or sites. So I take little reserve spots, and they are per client for me. So I have, just like I have a folder per client, I have a SharePoint site for every client I work with. Within the site, I add all of the paperwork. So I use OneDrive, I use Teams, I use Planner, and occasionally I will use forms and lists as well. But all of that sits inside the file or site, which sits on my SharePoint, which is my toaster rack. And that is, at its very simplest form, what SharePoint is. It's a massive, virtual, easy, central storage space. And it integrates with all of the elements. You can access it across any device, and you can work with it both as SharePoint itself, directly on the web, or you can set it up and then work through all of those apps and bits that you add in. So you don't actually have to interact with SharePoint directly, except for the original setup. Once you've set it up, you can access everything through Teams and OneDrive locally or on the web. You don't have to be working in SharePoint all the time. If you are interested in what SharePoint looks like and how you can use it, I'm going to do that in the next section of this video. I'm going to share my screen and we'll have a look at how those pieces fit together and how we integrate it and how then you can access it in a few other ways. So let's have a look. So I've explained what SharePoint is, and I thought I would just show you how I use it practically for myself for running my business. So from a client perspective, my toaster rack is SharePoint itself, and I access that by going onto the web. Now I'm using a Mac and I am using Google Chrome. So if you're using anything different to that, some of these options may look a little bit different, but the window inside should look the same for you. I've gone to office.com, and from the web browser at the top, I go to SharePoint, and it will open, I'm just going to close that one. It's going to open this one for me, which has all of my sites. I'm actually going to show you how I use it internally for Thrive, and then I'll show you a client site as well. But this is the internal one. So this is my Thrive admin site. I'm going to show you how I work with that locally once it's all been set up. So if I'm working with a VA or a contractor, or I've got someone coming in to help me on a particular project or element of my business, my accountant, my someone helping me with my bookkeeping, someone helping me set up my websites, or with some coaching or whatever, then I will share this site with them for that process, and then I will remove them. And when I do that, what they see is they can come here. So this is the site with my name, and I have on the page, I've set up some quick links at the top. And I'm not going to get bogged into all of the bits and pieces to do this, but this is how I set it up originally. So that's the system that I use for running my website and email marketing and my e-commerce. My booking calendar, which you can see has a link there, and my my free Facebook group. So I can jump to any of those at any time as quick links. Then I have a document folder, and this is my main document folder for Thrive, and it is a OneDrive folder. So that is a OneDrive link that sits on my SharePoint as well. And then I have a workflow planner board. So I have a planner board that sits on this SharePoint site as well. So if we take it back to the analogy of a toaster rack, my toaster rack for Thrive, I have the toaster rack that is SharePoint. I have a site, which is a file for Thrive. And then within that file, I have documents, I have a planner board, and in this instance, I have some links. And they're all sitting within that container for Thrive. So I want to show you how a client one works, because obviously internal and external is a little bit different. So if I go back to my sites, and I'm going to go and have a look at this client. So this client we have, now I haven't touched anything here. I literally haven't done anything. This is the way the page was created. And you can see it's a very different layout to the way I work on my own site. So what we've got is that I've created the page, and there is a planner board, same as before. There is a document library, same as before. And there is an activity feed, which is literally every piece of content that I do for them. Over on this side, you can see I've got a shared OneDrive folder, and that is our document folder. I have a team, and that's going to open Teams, and I have a team for this particular client. All right, so I've added a Teams channel. And then we have some pages and bits and pieces there. So for this client particularly, I haven't even added the planner in here, okay, because this client doesn't work with that. What I have done though is I have added this as a shortcut to my OneDrive. So if I look at my local OneDrive down on my machine, and this is my Finder, you can see I have this folder here, and I have these folders, which are exactly the same. So for me, the SharePoint site means that I can send a link to a client from here, and they can access it. There are two members. I've invited the client to this site, and they have the link and the login, and they can go in and access and upload anything when they like. Most of my clients don't, because that's not something they're comfortable doing, but they have the access, and at any time they can see it. It also means that what they can do is they can jump straight in. I can jump straight in and upload content that they email to me or send through to me via Teams. I can pop it all straight in there as well. Okay, so SharePoint is that container. So it's a double-layered container. It's like a shelf. SharePoint is the shelf. The sites are the containers, and inside the containers are all of my individual client content. When I go back to this, it literally becomes very clear when we go back to the My Sites. I go to the home page, and you can see it here. This is SharePoint, the whole thing, and these are the containers inside. And each container has lots of different things inside it. So I hope that that has helped you to understand a little bit more about what SharePoint is and how you need it to be a part of your bigger Microsoft usage, particularly if you're looking at creating things like client portals or working collaboratively across different apps. So I hope that that has helped demystify what SharePoint is and how it fits into the Microsoft 365 suite of products. It's a really handy tool that you will probably already be using without realizing, because everything links back to it. So if you have any other questions and you would like to know more about working with SharePoint, then I would be more than happy to help you. You can find me hanging out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Thrive Admin Services, and you can send me a message there and ask any questions that you have. You can also pop a question on this video. If you are one of my Thriving with 365 members, you can pop a question in our private Facebook, and you can check out what that's all about over at thriveadmin.com. The other place that is the best way for you to find out more about what's happening with Microsoft 365 and how you can use it with the skills you have and how you continue to grow those skills over time is via my free Facebook group, Microsoft Dynamos. You'll find that over on Facebook, and there is a link in the notes on this video. As always, if you like this video, then please subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when anything new pops up, and let your friends and colleagues and biz buddies know, because the more people who know about the way that we can work with Microsoft 365, the sooner we can all start working smarter in our businesses. Have a great day.